Hello everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of Amps in the Axe FX3. Today, I'm Lucas and I'm going to be your host. And we are going to be looking at one of the most popular Fender amps ever to be created. Yes, the Fender Blues JR. Why is it the most popular amp ever created? We are going to find out today. But before we do, if this is your first time here or if you've been here before, guys, please make sure you subscribe. We go over tons of cool stuff here. We go to tons of cool gear. We do giveaways, and I don't want you to miss any of that. So make sure you're subscribed. So why did I say that the Blues JR is one of Fender's most popular amps? Well, because it really is. This amp is pretty much the go-to for beginners everywhere. If you ever hung out on reddit.com/r/guitar, it's a guitar subreddit, this is the amps pretty much anyone talked about a couple years ago. It came out in 1995, but it's still super popular today. So let's actually check out the Fender Blues JR. So this is what the Blues JR looks like. It's a very simple 15 watt amp. In the Axe FX itself, we're going to have two different modes. We're going to have normal, and we're going to have it with the fat switch turned on. It uses EL84 tubes, which I am not the biggest fan of EL84 tubes, but they sound great in the Blues JR. Like I said, it's 15 watt amp, came out in 1995. It's pretty much like the quintessential tube amp that you can get that's not super expensive, 15 watts that sounds really good. Now, you know it has to be pretty good if it's actually going to be modeled in the Axe FX, meaning we have a ton of Fender amps to pull from. It's like some of the early ones that sound fantastic, but if this was modeled and had to be modeled for a specific reason, it's also one of the only Fender amps, one of the very few that actually has a master volume on it, which is kind of weird considering it's only a 15 watt amp. Now this is coming from the X Amp Guy. I'm gonna put a link to that in the description down below if you would like to check it out. This amp is one of the few Fender amps with a master control. Other controllers are gain, bass, middle, treble, fat, push button, in reverb. The amp has a fixed presence circuit and no bright switch. We actually can kind of get around that in the Axe FX. The fat switch boosts gain and mid-range frequencies in the preamp stage. We also have models amp with the fat switch engaged and disengaged, like I just said earlier. A little tidbit here is that the Egnator, where is it? It's on the, did I pass it up? Yes, I passed it up. Where is it? Oh yeah, right here. Use this model with no dampening, no negative feedback to make it sound like an Egnator Rebel 20. I'm going to try to remember to do that in here, and I'll show you what that sounds like, because the Egnator Rebel is pretty much the same thing. As, I believe that's Yek who's saying that right here. So, let's scroll back up, and let's leave that right there, and let's actually check out what we're going to be doing. IR-wise, we're using ML Mega Green 57C. It is a Mesa oversized 412 cab with some of the best Celestian greenbacks ever made. Love the IR for like clean to low gain type stuff. We're not going to be touching the output EQ, which I normally do on either amp. We're not touching that. I literally stayed authentic and dialed it in. Guitar is a Tom Anderson Cobra with an HC1 in the neck, HC3 in the bridge. And those are Tom Anderson pickups. I'm going to cycle the different pickups. We're going to start on the parallel bridge position, and let's see what it sounds like in normal mode. So, the Fender Blues JR, it does cleans very, 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 very well. Cleans, I think, are its absolute strong suit. Now, let me just do a couple things. Let me dial it down here. Since this is a pretty simple amp, let's pump up the master a little bit and see what that sounds like. So I'm going to put it back down to like around 7, and we're going to put up the input drive. So as you see, as you push the master and you crank up the input, it gets a little bit hairy. You got some bass and some mids going on in there. I kind of like the normal mode dialed in like this if I'm gonna be doing it for cleans. And if I would watch, let me just, like, if I use my bridge pickup, that was in parallel. Now it's in series. Now that position right there is parallel middle, and it sounds fantastic. Just with the settings that I have right here, even with the gain, the input gain at 420, blaze it. Now let's move on to the fat mode. The fat mode is my favorite. I don't know why, it just is. It has more gain in it because I'm only at like 2.2 right here, and it already sounds better. Do have the treble a little bit higher in here, but the fat mode just sounds better. I legitimately don't know why, but it does really sound better. Now I'm gonna leave the gain right here, and I'm gonna crank the master again like I did before. Let's stay in parallel middle position on the guitar. This thing sounds really, really great and really, really, really pristine. It probably would sound even better if I had single coils. So the parallel middle is the closest I can get to singles on this guitar. So we've got the master semi crank. Let's come down. Let's come up with the input drive and watch. As you're going to see, it's going to start to break up. That is the Fender Blues JR. As you crank it up, you get that nice good breakup going. I've never played one of these in real life, to tell you the truth. It sounds great on the Axe-Fx. It really does. I built a clean tone with the fat mode right here, because everyone's favorite Axe-Fx connoisseur, Mr. Leon Todd, make sure you check out his channel. He's awesome. He has tons of cool stuff on his channel. He built a clean tone with this, and I was like, the Blues JR, so I did it, and it sounded fantastic. And as you heard right here, it sounds really good. There's tons of cool stuff you can do with this. If you want something a little bit different, it has a little bit of breakup flavor in it, you could do that for the Blues JR too. I think its strong suit, though, is the cleans. That's why I think this thing excels at, which is odd, because it's a 15-watt amp, but hey, it sounds good. And that's going to wrap it up for the Fender Blues JR in this episode of Amps with the Axe-Fx 3. Guys, if you thought this video was cool, please leave me a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. On the next episode of Amps of the Axe-Fx 3, we are going to be checking out the JVM4 10HJS, which is essentially the JVM412H, but it's a Joe Satriani edition back when he left PV and was with Marshall. So we are going to be checking that out on the next episode. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Guys, thank you so much for sticking around and checking out this video. And I really do appreciate it, guys. And I'll catch you next one. Peace.